Hi everybody. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day and happy birthday to my little sister Leslie. Now we'll see if she really watches or not. I can remember when I was a kid that I had a pair of Nike shoes. It was my first pair of Nikes and I was really excited about them. And I would wear them all the time and anywhere I went. And as a kid, I would get into messy places, and so the shoes would get messy and stinky. They got really stinky, and after not too long a time, but probably about a year, they were really torn up, beat up, and they were really stinky. My mom came to me and she said, "You need to throw those shoes away." And I said, "No, Mom, but I love them. I love them. They're my favorite pair of shoes. They're the best." And she was very firm with me and told me that they needed to go. It's true that sometimes we find ourselves clinging to things, clinging to, perhaps, they are things, or maybe they're a way of life, or maybe an image of ourselves, maybe our own youth, that we cling to with all of our hearts, and we want to hold on to that forever. And, we don't like change as human beings, but we're always invited to continue to move forward, to the newness of life, to experience and know what it means to change. And Jesus, for sure, invites us always to a continuing transformation through knowledge of Him, through following Him, through discipleship with Him. And we see that today in our gospel, that the disciples of John the Baptist are kind of a little bit perturbed because they see that Jesus' disciples don't fast like they do, the disciples of John. And they're asking why they don't fast, and Jesus is like, they can't fast when the bridegroom is present with them. And then he says, no one puts a piece of shrunken cloth on another new piece of or a new piece of cloth on an old piece of fabric, because it'll take away from it. Or you can't put new wine into old wineskins, you need new wineskins. He's basically saying that there needs to always be a constant transformation in life. That with Jesus' presence in the world and in our lives, we're constantly called to continuing transformation, to continually see how He is working in our lives and how that's ever new. For me, it's always amazing how I can look at the same scripture, that I can look at this passage that we have today or another one, and it strikes me in a different way each time. I've only been a priest for a little bit, but I've had to preach on the same readings time or two sometimes, and you see that it continues to be new. There's a newness to it all the time. Today we celebrate the feast day, today we celebrate the holiday Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And I think that he was one who that invited people to see the world in a new way, through a lens of love rather than a lens of hatred. He said something beautiful. One of my favorite quotes from Martin Luther King Jr. was, he said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that." And he said, "Hatred cannot drive out hatred, only love can do that." Great words for us today in our lives, in our country, that we need to abide by still. We're called to always be transformed by the newness of who Jesus is, what He's calling us to in our own lives. So let's do that today, friends. Let's ask the Lord to be that agent of change in us for the good, that we might be ever transformed and ever grow in holiness, that we might live with Jesus one day in heaven.